Good afternoon. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. It's playoff week here on Fantasy Sports Today. I'm Craig Mish along with George Kurtz. We're getting you ready for the upcoming week in fantasy. George, you know what that means? It means a lot of people, a lot of money at stake this week for those who are playing in money leagues. Some people, of course, are fading and their fantasy football season is over, but we roll on and certainly can't wait to get into it with you. Happy holidays and great to be back with you for our Week 14 edition of the show. Week 15. Is it Week 15? Week 15.
It's Week 15. It goes by so quick. We don't know what week it is. Football does go by quick, right? It's not, you and I are big baseball guys. It's not like baseball, which is more of a marathon. It takes forever. I'm a hockey guy, which makes baseball look short, but football really flies by. But you're right. Now it's playoff season. Hopefully you made it, and I'm assuming if you're watching the show, I would think you made it here, and you're moving on there or trying to move on, and we'll see how it goes from there. But this is where the fun starts, and there are so many injuries, so many moves to make.
Yeah, we have a lot to get to here with our headlines and injuries as of Friday's injury reports. So let's get right to it. We'll start off with the big stories of the week there at quarterback yet again. A lot of new quarterbacks starting this week. Philip Rivers off the couch at 44 years old. That's the big one this week. He's going to start for the Indianapolis Colts. By all measures, he will get the nod, which is sort of insane. I want George to grab your thoughts on that. Kenny Pickett also named the starter Friday for the Las Vegas Raiders, as Geno Smith is going to sit. Jaden Daniels will not start for Washington. Also, we found out late Friday that Cook will start at quarterback for the Jets. And then we had a performance of a lifetime last night from a tight end in Kyle Pitts, who, if you have him somehow and made the playoffs, you did something else right, because the guy's done nothing all season long, but he had an incredible game. We'll get to that in a second. All right, so let's start off with Rivers here, George. What's going on with this? Now, I got to say that earlier this season, I was, saying that Joe Flacco was cooked, that he was done, and he actually was pretty good with Cincinnati there for a bit. Is there any chance that Philip Rivers could help the Colts right now?
Yeah, I understand everybody wants to compare Rivers to Flacco, but Flacco had been playing, right? And his arm was still strong. Whatever you want to say about Flacco, he's a statue, and he's just going to throw the ball up, see what happens. But his arm was still there. Probably, I would say, 85, 90% of what it was in his prime. Philip Rivers, if we remember 5 years ago, his arm was not there anymore. He couldn't throw then, right? His arm was weakening as it was. So, Damian Woody, I thought, had it best last night on SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt. That it's sort of an insult to the football player, the quarterback, to think he cannot play for 5 years. And he's going to come play cold and be good against Seattle? That's crazy to me. Just absolutely crazy here. The bottom line is this. I am not starting Rivers anywhere, and I've got some Superflex problems, all right, that we're going to discuss later here. So, but I'm not even thinking about Rivers or Riley Leonard, by the way, if he was going to start. Didn't want to go that direction either. But I've got Jonathan Taylor. And Craig, are you telling me that Seattle's not putting 8 men in the box? Stop Taylor. Let's see what Rivers can do. Come on, man. And if they have Pittman, you got Downs, you got Pierce, Warren. This hurts the most. I'm not saying I'm sitting any of them. Outside of Rivers, maybe Pierce. I'd probably sit Pierce. Pittman, I'm probably forced to play. Tyler Warren, I'm certainly forced to play here. Downs, I can probably sit as well here. But this is a trickle-down effect that hurts a lot.
Kenny Pickett starts for Las Vegas. It can only go up from where it's been. Geno Smith, unfortunately, has been one of the worst quarterbacks this season starting in the NFL. Pickett will get his shot with the Raiders. I don't think much will change, honestly, for them. They've been the worst offense in the NFL. Jaden Daniels, they're saying he's going to come back. Another injury. You may have known last week he left the game with the same injury that he's had. They're saying that he will play at some point, but I'm skeptical of that. But now let's get to the top story of really the weekend going in. Who would have thunk it? Not the Falcons beating the Bucks. Who would have thunk that Kyle Pitts would get a 40-plus fantasy night to start off playoff weekend? You must have had some really good luck if Kyle Pitts made your team and it wasn't a dynasty in a fantasy league. It's sad for me, George, because in the league I was knocked out, and I'm playing on Yahoo. I'm in that consolation bracket, and boom, I got my 45 points. Too little, too late for me with Kyle Pitts. I don't get it. I don't understand it. This guy was a first-round pick out of the University of Florida. He's done nothing for several years. This was not only the most points that he's ever had in fantasy, it was one of the top 5 most tight end games ever in fantasy football. So if you have him going into playoff week, George, dare I say you're a winner. And if you don't, you're in huge trouble.
I assume I'm like everybody else, right? You watching this happen last night. I know I don't have him on any of my playoff teams, all right? I don't have any draft him, so I didn't have him anywhere. And I'm like, oh God, you start going one by one. All right, am I playing against them? You start looking at scores. No. I got lucky. Outside the total points league that I'm playing in, I don't have him, but I wasn't up against him anywhere either, and I'll take that gladly because I did not want to be down 45 points already. All right, so it worked out. I guess even for me, I'll take it. My brother does have him in our total points league, but he's out of it anyway. Right. One of those strange occurrences here. All right. I don't think, what do you have? 3 touchdowns, 11 catches, 160 yards. I mean, it's just crazy. Just absolutely crazy how Cousins was able to find him over and over again. And Craig, what always amazes me, where were the adjustments by Tampa Bay? There was no Drake London. Obviously, Cousins was looking for him left, right, center all the time. Cover the man, double cover him, take him away, force him to throw to Mooney, force him to throw to the other guy, Stills, who just made the weird catch on the bomb that he let go through, whatever. Forced to throw to these guys, take Pitts away. Always find that strange that where the coaches just don't make an adjustment there. But it was very interesting to see for Todd Bowles, he was in his post-game press conference, a very measured F-bomb conference. It was not like yelling and screaming. It's talking very slowly. We can't effing do this. This effing can't happen. Very much talking like that. I don't think I've ever seen someone that calm drop so many F-bombs.
Me either. But the Bucs put themselves in a horrible position now. The Carolina Panthers are the team that's not favored on FanDuel to make it to the playoffs, but they certainly have the driver's seat, as they say. 29-28, the final. Recapping this game, as we mentioned, Pitts had the third most fantasy points by a tight end in NFL history, and most since 1983, and 7% of his career fantasy points happened last night. What does that tell you about the career of Kyle Pitts, who, by the way, will be a free agent at the end of the season? Meanwhile, George, other good performances. You got what you needed from Bijan Robinson in the fantasy playoffs. He's probably on a lot of rosters. 93 yards, also 8 receptions for 82 yards as well. But on the flip side, Baker Mayfield, George, this is a guy that's probably starting in some playoff fantasy leagues this week. 277, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. It feels like he didn't have a great game, but fantasy numbers, he bailed you out.
Yeah, fantasy-wise, he was fine, right? Mike Evans came back last night, so if you started him for a while, they looked like he might get a 200-yard game there. They're throwing him left and right. Egbuka was okay. I think he ended up with about 10.4 points, whatever it might be. And Godwin saved his night with the touchdown and the 2-point conversion there. So the passing game was solid for you. You did okay. Probably a little frustrated that the third-string tight end caught the touchdown pass, or one of those touchdown passes there. That probably didn't delight everybody there. But it was okay. But, of course, that interception, I don't want to say cost him the game because that's not fair, but it certainly didn't help matters any here when he threw that pick there. I guess the good news is, Craig, for the first time maybe a month, the offense looked good, right? Looked good again.
Yeah.
They've been stalling the past couple of weeks, so it looked good, like they could move the ball again. The defense just fell apart here. And as we keep saying over and over again, it's a bad loss for Tampa Bay. They've lost 5 out of 6. They do still control their own destiny. They play Carolina twice. Now, I can say the same thing about Carolina. Carolina controls their own destiny, too. Pretty much even team sweeps the other, they're going to win the division here. And Atlanta, by the way, especially if Carolina does happen to lose on Sunday, Atlanta's not dead yet. Probably have the same chance of winning as Kansas City of getting in the playoffs. Same chances there. They're not going to. I know that, but they're not dead.
Right. NFC a little tougher. Yeah. By the way, is Carolina? Do they play Tampa Bay the last game of the season, George? Is that the?
I think it's 16 and 18. Yeah, week 16 and 18.
Okay, so guess what game is Sunday Night Football, week 18? Do I even need to look it up? Right? Like, isn't that
there's
a lot?
There's a lot of games that could be. Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay, they were all in the mix there.
Yeah,
so
that's true. That's true.
Seattle, San Fran,
but it feels like it's
LA.
a do or die, though. That game is a definite do or die, though, between those two teams, week 18. We'll be right back.
Interesting to see in that Big 12. We keep talking about it. With Houston, with Iowa State, with Kansas, with BYU. They're going to be battle tested, but so is the rest of that league. And man, That is going to be fun to watch.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
There are a million ways to make money on this. There really is, right? Like, I sit back. We've given you a couple of ours that we've given you. I think they're all going to win, essentially. The gold one, the Google Views one. The only one I might not win, Cam, that I gave people was, will the U.S. government announce that aliens exist in 2026?
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen. When the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback, it's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports. Today, we're going to play some start or sit, and hopefully this applies to a lot of you. You know, transparently speaking, we understand. A lot of you are now headed toward the fantasy playoffs, but a lot of you have stuck with us all season. And if you're not in the playoffs and you're still watching us now, we appreciate it, because I know, George, that it is, you know, for me too, you know, just keeping it 100% real. When I was younger and I was watching shows like ours 20, 30 years ago, I don't know that a lot existed. Once I was knocked out, I wasn't all that interested in what George Kurtz had to say. No offense to George Kurtz, but it's just like, that's the dynamic of fantasy. So we get it, we understand it, but we're going to roll on, and before you know it, we'll have some baseball discussion as well. Start or sit, Kenneth Walker from Seattle goes up against that Colts team with a quarterback as old as George against Jaylen Warren of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Dolphins' defense has gotten a lot better, George, that's for sure. But Jaylen Warren is like your rock solid 10-point no matter what guy, right? Like, no matter what, he's getting you that. He may not get you 30, but every week he's getting you 10. Walker, they keep bringing Charbonnet near the goal line. I think this is a great one. Who do you got here?
Yeah, they both have problems as far as the other guy, right? Because Gainwell is stealing points from Warren. All right, Pittsburgh really likes Gainwell, and I'm starting him this week, so I really like Gainwell as well. You said it earlier, Miami is playing much better on defense. I think Miami might win this game, by the way. I don't see TJ Watt playing this week. He had a procedure on his lung today, right? That was pretty nuts. So yeah, that's crazy. Best wishes to Watt, but that's a huge loss there, which means maybe they don't have the ball as much. You know, I think we might all agree that Walker's the better player. You know, but Charbonnet is annoying. I mean, and they seem to want Charbonnet to score touchdowns, not Walker. It's a tough one for me. I'm going to go with Walker because I just don't know how often Indianapolis is going to have the ball. You know, I just don't know how often they are in that games. But if you want to tell me it's Warren, I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I'd probably go Warren just because that's the floor. I know what the floor is. With Walker, he could do nothing because the other guy scores a lot of touchdowns. You're right about Gainwell stealing some. It does feel, though, like Warren is still getting more than 50% of those red zone touches. So, and by the way, his explosiveness on that catch that he had last week, and the Steelers got to understand Gainwell's okay, but Warren is the better back of the two. This is a tough one here. Boy, this is a tough one. Tight end. Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs, coming off maybe his worst game ever. Looks like he's headed to retirement, honestly. Tyler Warren, who once upon a time was one of the best tight ends in fantasy. That's not the case anymore. Duds the last couple of weeks. And George, you and I may see this differently. I'm really worried, man. Like, you think Phillip Rivers is going to find Tyler Warren 5 times for 50 yards this week? I don't know. I mean, Daniel Jones couldn't. I don't know what's going on with Warren. They stopped using him like they did earlier in the year.
Oh, I'm starting Kelsey here. That's easy for me. At least you know Mahomes is going to throw him the ball. All right, I'll take that here. That's a solid matchup. It is in Kansas City. We always got to check the weather, make sure it's not brutal there, being 20 below, which it will be in Chicago, by the way. So there is that. But yeah, I'll take Kelsey. There. As for Warren, listen, Warren's great, but I don't have much faith in Rivers. All right? I just don't. And by the way, what if Seattle? We don't even know that Rivers is definitely starting. By the way, it could be Leonard,
right?
Or Mix, or whatever it might be. And I think it's Rivers too. I'd be surprised if it's not. But Craig, is he going to finish the game? I mean, Philly maybe like after a couple of hits, maybe having 10 kids at home sitting on the couch, maybe that's where I should be. What, the carpool line? Yeah, I that's not so bad after all here. I'll go Kelsey over Warren here. Warren's the better at this point in their careers. Warren's the better player, but it's Mahomes against Rivers. I think I'll take Mahomes.
I mean, literally, Rivers met Warren 3 days ago. I don't know how this is going to work out. All right, let's go with garbage time quarterbacks here. One with a chance to win, one that's going to be playing from behind. Jacoby Brissett is the garbage time quarterback king in fantasy football this season. We talked about him last week on the show. I want to talk about his partner, by the way, here in a second. Tyler Shuck of the Carolina Panthers. I'm sorry, of the New Orleans Saints goes against the Carolina Panthers. Shuck looked good last week for the first, really good for the first time all season. But George, I guess the only thing is that when Houston is up 24-7, what's going to happen at that point with Brissett? Is he going to do what he's done? Because if so, I want him again. Michael Wilson is winning everybody a fantasy championship, George, this season. We talked about this last week, and Sam, our producer, was like, what's up with Michael Wilson? Why so much of Michael Wilson? This dude is incredible. George, have we ever seen this before where a receiver that wasn't drafted in fantasy, that wasn't at least like a rookie? I mean, Puka Nacua was a rookie of some kind. As long as Brissett is healthy and Michael Wilson is on that field and Marvin Harrison is not and he's out, I'm going to play Brissett again. They're going to be, I know it's Houston and that's what you're going to throw at me now, but go ahead.
I am going to throw Houston at you. The good news is, as far as Brissett and Wilson, is that Harrison is out. So Wilson, once again, will be the number 1 or number 2 target after McBride or with McBride. Houston is the number 1 team as far as not giving up fantasy points to a quarterback. Number 1. So keep that in mind. That being said, before you go, it's definitely a show. New Orleans is also top 10. New Orleans gives up about 15 points to fantasy points to a quarterback. Houston gives up 11. So you talk about a difference of 4 points here. The upside is certainly, I would think, with Brissett. I think you just said it, they're going to be blown out. He's going to throw the ball 40, 45 times again. I think Shaw's going to do okay against Carolina. I do. So I'm not necessarily dead set against it. But that being said, I'm going to go with Brissett because the volume's there. All right, the volumes. They're not going to worry about getting him hurt. They don't care. He may not be on the team next year. He's not the future starter of this team. So get back there, throw the ball 45 times. Now, that being said, in my home Superflex league, I'm starting McCarthy over Brissett because it's against Dallas. And Dallas is the number 1 team in giving up fantasy points. That's why over Brissett.
If Brissett gets hurt, does Arizona call Jake Plummer? Is that what happens next?
I think it's Neil Lomax. Maybe Jim Hart.
They could do that. Blake Corum back up for the Rams. I held him all last year for nothing. Remember that show? David Montgomery of Detroit. They play against each other. Corum now all of a sudden looks like a fantasy star. Montgomery has to get like a 40 or 50-yard touchdown in order to pay dirt. I think I'm playing Corum.
I agree with you. Detroit needs to win the game. They can't play games here. I'm going with Corum as well, but I don't mind Montgomery, but I'm going Corum here.
Yeah, both will start in the fantasy playoffs, I think, this week, at least as a flex for both. All right, we'll be back with more fantasy sports today. Week 15's fantasy football playoffs. Don't go away.
Interesting to see in that Big 12. We keep talking about it. With Houston, with Iowa State, with Kansas, with BYU. They're going to be battle tested, but so is the rest of that league. And man, That is going to be fun to watch.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
There are a million ways to make money on this. There really is. Right? Like I sit back, we've given you a couple of ours that we've given you. I think they're all going to win, essentially. The gold one, the Google Views one. The only one I might not win, Cam, that I gave people was, will the U.S. government announce that aliens exist in 2026?
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen. When the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback, it's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Well, I'm guessing barring some catastrophe, if you're watching us here and you're in the literal fantasy football playoffs and not like the consolation, you probably didn't need to add much this week in fantasy. Maybe, you had to fix the Daniel Jones issue. But beyond that, it's like play the guys that got you here. But let's go through it, George, and see if there's anybody on the waiver wire. Jalen Wright played a lot last week for Miami. He finally is starting to get some looks, but that's only because Devon Achane was held out of the second half. They were crushing the Jets. He's 24% owned. I guess it's a good handcuff for Achane, but even if you picked him up, you're not starting him in any format this week.
No, you said it perfectly. Miami only held out Achane because it was a blowout. Achane wanted to come back in. McNeil said he could have come back in, but he held him out here. Achane's going to go Monday night. I think they'll play him a whole lot. I think they'd like to spoil some other teams. I do think they'd like to take some teams down with them here. So I think Achane could have a big game Monday night, especially without TJ Watt here. I'm not starting right.
Arizona starting running back, I guess, George, you'd have to be super desperate because I think Zonovan Knight, who's 37% owned, is a good stash maybe. But if I went through with you, George, all 30 teams in the NFL and their running backs and the players you would start in fantasy this week, would Knight be 30th? Like as far as like an NFL team is concerned? I mean, they don't run the ball. They're horrible. All they do is throw because they're down. I mean, I guess you could pick him up and hope, but there's no chance I'm starting this guy this week.
Yeah, it'd be hard for me to see how you're in the playoffs. At this point, you're starting Bam Knight, right? Probably not. And yet you said it once again. They're trailing. They're not going to be able to run the football. Houston's top 10 against the run, by the way, so it's not number 1. So you can look at it that way. But unless he falls into the end zone, I don't see how he's getting you double-digit points.
Mike Gesicki of the Bengals at tight end. Maybe you're making a Tyler Warren decision this week. I guess that's possible. 5.5% rostered. Starting to see a lot more catches. We got word late Friday that T. Higgins is out this week for the Cincinnati Bengals, so that bumps Gesicki up a little bit, George. But a starting tight end in a 12-team league, I don't see it.
Well, we have some tight end issues this week, right? I said I don't see it either, but maybe you got Jake Ferguson, right? He's sort of iffy to play. Maybe you've got TJ Hawkinson, iffy to play here. So I can see where there could be some issues here as far as with him. But the bottom line is this. I don't want to start him. No, I really don't. I don't care if T. Higgins is out here. Jamar Chase is going to get a ton of looks in the game versus who are they playing? Whatever they're playing. Baltimore, right? Is that the game here? So Chase is going to get looks all the time here. Iosivas will be another guy they're going to look at here. You're going to need him to get to the end zone again to pay off here. So I'd rather not. I don't have him in my top 10. I think I have just outside my top 12. He could get inside if Ferguson and or Hawkinson are both out.
Yeah, Fannin on Cleveland's moved up to like 50% owned.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you may want to start him over everybody we've mentioned at this point, because look at his numbers the last few weeks.
Johnson. I would say Theo Johnson over these guys.
Him too with the Giants. Yeah. All right. So Shedeur Sanders throws to Fannin. It's like the favorite target here. Sanders is 18% owned at this point, and the numbers are piling up. He's got 5 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. You would have to be in a Daniel Jones situation. I'm guessing a back-end top 12 quarterback here. But the total is low in this game, George. Look, I think Sanders could be in the conversation for next season. But, man, I got to believe that you got better options to start this week.
You would better have better options, okay? I mean, really better. I'm looking again just to get the update here. 11 degrees. 11 degrees. Is what the temperature is going to be at here. And that's without the wind chill, by the way. The wind's blowing at about 10 miles an hour, so it's going to be right around 0 with the wind chill. I don't see how anybody's throwing the rock in this game. I just don't. Now, tight ends are a little different. They are, because they close to the line of scrimmage, so maybe Loveland, maybe Fannin will have the only interest in the passing game that I want for either team. I'm not starting Judy. I'm not starting Athunze. I'm not starting Bird, and I'm not starting DJ Moore. All right? None of them. It's not happening here. I don't see I think this will be a low-scoring game here. I'm not really – I'll take the under, but I'm not touching this game as far as the pass game is concerned.
Yeah, I think I'd start the Army-Navy guys at tight end as opposed to some of these guys and their quarterbacks this week. Yeah, it's that kind of week. But look, at quarterback, Sanders probably now has moved himself into the top 25. But I don't think that beyond a super flex league, you'd be starting him this week. You can download the SportsGrid app. Just take out your phone, scan this QR code. We're streaming live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's how you get the app. It's absolutely free. You can even track your sports bets, and it gives you the latest odds and information in the National Football League, college football, as well as the NBA and college basketball and hockey as well. So download it now, and you get it for free. We'll take a quick time out here on Newswire. When we come back, we preview every game in the NFL. Fantasy sports today. My other show's Newswire. Only the second time in 15 weeks I've done that. Do I get a trophy for that?
Interesting to see in that Big 12. We keep talking about it. With Houston, with Iowa State, with Kansas, with BYU. They're going to be battle tested, but so is the rest of that league. And man, that is going to be fun to watch.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
There are a million ways to make money on this. There really is, right? Like, I sit back. We've given you a couple of ours that we've given you. I think they're all going to win, essentially. The gold one, the Google Views one. The only one I might not win, Cam, that I gave people was, will the U.S. government announce that aliens exist in 2026?
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen. When the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback, it's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish along with George Kurtz for the next about 30 minutes or so. We got you covered with more fantasy content. Let's preview some games in the NFL. I don't think anybody would have had this at the beginning of the season. The Patriots in first place in the AFC East, basically ready to wrap it up this week with a win against the Buffalo Bills. They're going to win the division anyway, but they could take care of it this week. The Bills still, by the way, George, a little bit of a favorite, which gives us a preview as to what we can expect in the playoffs, I think, too. I don't know that the Pats are going to be favored in games, but Buffalo last week, of course, another monster performance from Josh Allen. Why in the world was that guy just running wide open down the field? So strange. So, of course, you're starting him, and Drake May is a must-start, too. Skill positions, not as clear, I would say, George, at this point. Buffalo, still some hit or miss. James Cook, rock solid, plug him in. At this point, Travion Henderson, plug him in. Who else are you going to start on this in this good game on Sunday?
Yeah, it should be a good game. I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game, at least not mega high-scoring. Man, 44 or maybe around the total I think they'll get to here. For Buffalo's the hard one, right? Who we start? I mean, you're starting Cook, you're starting Allen. Kincaid? Yeah, I'm probably going Kincaid. One question we didn't get to in our one of our previous segments was Shakir. Do you want to start him? Not really. Once you're going to need him to break a big play or get in the end zone here, so I'm really not dying for any of their receivers. And the same can really be said for New England, although Diggs, it is sort of a revenge. I know it's been years, but it's sort of a revenge game here. Could certainly see him getting into the end zone. I think May will take his deep shots there. So that's probably the one guy I would think about going with. We haven't heard much from Butte in quite a while here, right? So
yeah, true.
Diggs or a bust from here. That'd be about it.
Ravens and Bengals, all hands on deck kind of game, but that's on the side of the Bengals. What is going on with the Ravens here? My gosh. Now, Keaton Mitchell came through last week, so did Derrick Henry, but still, I have a lot of concerns with Lamar Jackson, George. I mean, I guess if you're like that 6th seed in the playoffs and you survived with Lamar at quarterback, are you starting him again this week? On the side of the Bengals, you know what to do. You start Chase Brown, most likely RB2 or flex. Joe Burrow, 100%. Chase, 100%. I guess Zay Flowers you got to put in there again. Andrews, 1 week, 20 points, 1 week, 0. But Lamar is the big question, George. You have Lamar Jackson on a fantasy team this week, and you're in the playoffs. You starting him?
It's Cincinnati, so I sort of lean yes, it's Cincinnati, but then there's a couple of things here. One, I just talked about Chicago. It's 13 degrees in Cincinnati, by the way. So once again, the wind chill is going to be on, around 5, 4, whatever. It's going to be damn cold here. For people who don't know, it's not the cold. The football is a rock. It's literally a rock when it gets that cold. You can't squeeze, you can't grab it, it gets slippery. I just don't know what the throwing game is going to be like there. That being said, I do think he'll run a bunch. He was running more last week, right? We like that. And yet, by the way, yes, that was a touchdown to likely. The NFL is just ridiculous. No touchdown last week, but it's a Bijan Robinson fumble last night. Right. The same damn play. Right. It doesn't make any sense. All right, whatever. That's something for my when I like to complain at the end of the show.
The end of the show.
Yeah, that's definitely an end of show thing there. But yes, to answer your question, I imagine I'm starting him. Right, but it would come down to who else do I have on my roster. I mean, you tell me I got a decent backup quarterback, I can be talked out of it because of the weather, not because of Lamar, Craig, but because of the weather. That's what I worry about here. And by the way, Joe Burrow. You see that press conference he had on? Was it Wednesday?
I did.
That was depressing.
Yeah.
That was really depressing. I hope he's all right.
Agreed. Yeah, me too. It feels like Andrew Luck all over again. All right,
yes.
Chargers take on the Chiefs. Chiefs 5.5-point favorites in this game. What am I missing? The Chiefs, I guess, are going to crush the Chargers because their offensive line is hideous. Left tackle, right tackle out for the season. Herbert is in big trouble again, George, this week. I think this is going to be a defensive game. But I definitely have to pluck some players out of this and play. It's not easy to do. I mean, I guess on the side of the Chargers, would you throw Hampton out there? Ladd McConkey? For the Chiefs, you mentioned Kelsey earlier, probably Mahomes. But normally a Chargers-Chiefs game, late in December, mid-December, doesn't matter the weather, I'm throwing in 10 guys from these two teams. Harder to find this year.
There's a lot of guys where you want to start, but you're a little worried here. By the way, the Chiefs are missing 3 guys off their offensive line. All right, this could be an ugly game as far as the quarterbacks running for their lives here. Once again, 18 degrees here. Not much in the wind there. So another game, cold damn game. It's going to be cold this weekend throughout the United States. Maybe not where Craig is. But it's going to be a little chilly. A little chilly here. I'm starting Kelsey. No Hollywood Brown. Not that you're starting him anyway, but he's out. You're probably starting Rashee Rice. Can't see how you're getting away from that. Hunt. He's been decent, getting the end zone there, which he does do. Chargers, you mentioned Hampton. Yeah, I'm probably starting him. Once again, running back, I probably can't do better. I'm probably thrilled he's back, right? He scored the touchdown Monday night. It may not have had him because it was Monday night game. You weren't sure. So, yeah, I'm starting him. Gadsden would probably be a no for me. He hasn't done much of late. He's not in my top 12. McConkey, probably a yes, but I'm not thrilled about it. Herbert, by the way, great game by Herbert. Much respect for how he played. Calling his own number, running the ball with a broken hand. He was pushing guys off with the that's nuts. Much respect for Herbert for what he did and beating the Eagles. And thank you, by the way, as a Cowboy fan. We appreciate that. But I'm probably not starting you in fantasy.
Commanders do not have Jaden Daniels this week, so that all but eliminates a lot of the offensive weapons for them. Terry McLaurin's had a tough year, so is Deebo Samuel. I mean, if you're in the playoffs, I doubt you're starting those guys this week. And running back also not much of an option for the Giants. Look, Tyrone Tracy, they just can't figure out if they want him to be the guy or if it's Devin Singletary. They seem to be splitting carries. Wan'Dale Robinson has done well. The Giants are off a bye, but this is one of those games that we're talking about, George, that I think you're going to have less than 4. If I set the number at 3.5 fantasy starters in this game, could you hit that in 4?
Yeah. I mean, even the running back situation is not good. I mean, I'd like to start. Both teams have bad defenses, so there is upside for these guys. You probably don't want to start him, but if you're playing against Kyle Pitts, maybe you're giving Rodriguez a shot here. Can he be that guy? I think points are coming here. These defenses are terrible. Yeah, and one of my playoffs, I'm a dog anyway. I had Daniel Jones. Geno Smith was my third quarterback, and now I'm down to Mariota. I could have picked up anybody. So I'm starting Mariota. Let's go. Let's see what happens here. I got nothing to lose in this game. I was supposed to lose by double-digit points anyway. So I can see Rodriguez and McLaurin once again. Giants can't cover anybody. Ertz is gone too. He was actually a decent tight end. You mentioned Wan'Dale, Tyrone Tracy. I can see some shots here, but you're looking for upside here. You're looking for that we think this game's going to be over 50 points.
Lions and Rams, speaking of which, this is the easiest fantasy game on the board this week, honestly. So you start Goff, you start Stafford, you start Montgomery, you start Gibbs, you start Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Adams, Blake Corum. Maybe you stay away from the tight ends, Puka Nacua, you're in. I think this could be a great game. Maybe my favorite one on the board this week.
I think the Rams win the game, by the way. I think they're back to being the best team. But I agree with you. This is a game where if you have a Lion or a Ram on your team and you're not starting them, why is that player on your team? All right, you're starting everybody. I can't think of a starter that you wouldn't start here. And yeah, I would start Corum and Kyron Williams, just like we would Gibbs and Montgomery. I think they'll both have good games here. So yeah, you got a player. You're starting him here. I mean, I'm not going as far down as like Tesla or someone like that. I'm not going that. Parkinson, the tight end for the Rams, probably not doing that either, unless you're really desperate. But hey, you could be, like I mentioned, we do have some tight ends who are iffy to play here. Maybe that's your backup. There's no one else available there. So Parkinson, I guess, could be a play in that scenario.
Vikings and Cowboys, if you took the advice, or fake advice last week, which was cut Jefferson so somebody else can pick him up and start him against you, that worked because he got 3 points last week. So good job. But J.J. McCarthy did have a nice game. So maybe Jefferson is online for a game this week against the Cowboys. Oof, I don't know. For Dallas, CeeDee Lamb is back. He will play. That's good news. They've had some time off since their last game, George. And, certainly the Cowboys offense is rolling right now. Yeah,
as far as Jefferson, the Cowboys give up the most points to wide receivers. All right, probably tight ends too. So yeah, JJ, I'm going with him. I mentioned I'm starting McCarthy over Brissett in a Superflex league this week because the Cowboys are so bad against opposing wide receivers and quarterbacks. So let's give it a shot.
We'll be right back with more fantasy sports today after this.
Interesting to see in that Big 12. We keep talking about it. With Houston, with Iowa State, with Kansas, with BYU. They're going to be battle tested, but so is the rest of that league. And man, that is going to be fun to watch.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
There are a million ways to make money on this. There really is. Right? Like I sit back, we've given you a couple of ours that we've given you. I think they're all going to win, essentially. The gold one, the Google Views one. The only one I might not win, Cam, that I gave people was, will the U.S. government announce that aliens exist in 2026?
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen. When the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback, it's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish along with George Kurtz. We got to get through some good true or false questions here on the show. For those of you who have never watched, we could easily just call it true or false, but we got creative because that's what we do. We create content here on the show. We call it buy or sell. All right, so let's get into it here, and let's talk about last night's debacle with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not only was it bad for reality, it was bad for fantasy, too. I mean, I guess, George, when you think about it, the best running back on Tampa Bay this season is going to turn out to be Rachaad White. But believe it or not, right now, Sean Tucker is the guy that leads the team in touchdowns, rushing and receiving. Buy or sell. Tucker will lead the Bucs in touchdowns this season. I never, ever would have thought that this would even be a buy or sell, but here we are.
It had to be frustrating last night that he stole the one, right? Got the goal line carry there. I don't know when he became the goal line back, but he is. That being said, this is a pretty easy buy for me. I mean, he's got 6. Rachaad White has 4. You want to guess how many Bucky Irving has, Craig? How many touchdowns do you think Bucky Irving has this year? Oh, you're close. You're close. He's got 1. So it ain't going to be Bucky Irving. Baker Mayfield has the other one. They only have 12 rushing touchdowns, period. 6 Tucker, 4 Rachaad White, 1 for Tucker, and 1 for Mayfield. So unless you think Rachaad White's going to get 3, and when's the last time he got a touchdown, by the way? It's been a few weeks. Unless you think it's going to get 3 over the next 3 games, where I guess it's possible, and Tucker gets none. No, this is a buy for me. Tucker should end up leading the Buccaneers.
Isn't it funny, George, that Rachaad White, when he was the guy and those 2 guys weren't playing, the Bucs were good? And now that these guys have come back, he's not. They're not. Really weird. Yeah, easy buy. Yeah, they're using him near the goal line, too. I did see some metrics that said that Irving has a hard time getting in the end zone, by the way. When it's close, he usually scores from outside. So it does appear that Tucker will lead the team in touchdowns this season. All right, 2 players that are going to be drafted inside the top 5 in fantasy. I probably could say, honestly, George, inside the top 3 in the first round of fantasy football next year. Jahmyr Gibbs will have a higher ADP than Bijan Robinson next season. I mean, I suppose right now, if Jackson Smith-Njigba is not 1, 2, or 3, it's McCaffrey, and it's Gibbs, and it's Bijan. But I don't know that that's the order. Are you going to buy that Gibbs will have a higher ADP than Robinson?
For the running backs against McCaffrey, Gibbs, Bijan will be there. Jonathan Taylor, depending how the situation is. A Chain is going to be there as well with all the damage he's done. Gibbs, I think, is close to your number 1 next year. I do. I think we'll trust him more than McCaffrey because he stays healthy. I'm assuming PPR when he catches so many balls, so does McCaffrey. But we're going to love a Detroit offense here. I don't think you can go wrong with any of these guys, by the way. All right, I'd be happy with all of them. But I think me personally, if I had, it was Gibbs McCaffrey, which I think is really your 1-2 there. I'm going Gibbs. I might go Chase over any of them, assuming Burrow's not going to retire. But I think I would take Gibbs over McCaffrey. But once again, Craig, bottom line is this. I'm not complaining if I get any of them.
No, and I think I think next year's number 1 fantasy draft pick, it's not that it's going to be bad. I just think there's a lot of variation going into next year. I could see any of 3 or 4 players as of right now going number 1. I would have said Jonathan Taylor, but he slowed down. But I will agree with you, unfortunately, here. Hate to do it. But yes, I'm a buy. I think Gibbs will go ahead of Bijan Robinson. I could easily see Bijan being the better back, but Gibbs right now, I mean, every time he gets the ball, it looks like he's going to break off a 40-yard touchdown. We saw a disappointing game for the Kansas City Chiefs last week, highlighted by Travis Kelce dropping a ball late. Is this the end? Travis Kelce will retire after the season. Buy or sell?
Yeah, it's been a depressing week. I mentioned earlier Joe Burrow in that press conference he had on Wednesday, which was just sad. And then Travis Kelce had the same thing, right? He's upset. What was there? Things weren't going his way. He didn't know what the problem was, that sort of thing. I do wonder, Craig, when you start thinking like that, if you're like, all right, I'm done. And my time has come here. He's actually had a decent season. He still could play. He'd still be a top 10 tight end in fantasy, I think. He'll be closer to 10 than to 1. But I think he'll retire after the season. I wonder if he's going to want to go out this way with not making the playoffs, assuming once again that they don't make it. So I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say he doesn't, but I wouldn't put any money on it. It's more like a 60-40 thing here that I think he'll come back here. And I want him to come back. It's Travis Kelce. But also he loves lucrative outside opportunities. That podcast with his brother, he can do that.
Yeah.
All right. Not to mention, of course, the if and when he gets going to get married to Taylor Swift. So he may have other things on his mind, but I'll still sell this.
Yeah, I'm going to buy it. Jason Kelce retired a little early. Like, you could have seen Jason Kelce come back and play another year or even 2 with the Eagles, but he just decided that was the end. I think this is the same for Travis Kelce. The one thing that I would add is that it wouldn't shock me to see him retire, George, and then unretire and come back. That I could see. But the first half of next season, I think he's going to be a retired football player. All right, finally, Joe Burrow with some very poignant comments this week talking about he wants to make sure he's having fun to play football. I don't know what this had to do with or why it came out like this, but a story TBD. Buy or sell, Burrow will start for another team next season, not the Bengals. Buy or sell?
Mike, what would it cost in talent, draft picks, not to mention whatever salary cap would be hit to trade Joe Burrow? The Bengals wouldn't trade Hendrickson when they should have done it. All right, I mean, just idiotic how they treat their players. I understand you're not happy there. Then don't sign. It's pretty much that simple. I guess you could try and force your way out if you truly. I think he just had a bad day or whatever. Because listen, he had the 2 interceptions there against Buffalo. That he had a great game. Don't get me wrong here, but I understand. Tough. You lost the game here. Now you're at your chance for the playoffs are gone here. You got hurt, the turf toe, blah blah blah. No, this will be a self. I think I can't see the Bengals trading him or anything else. So, and I don't think he retires either. So I think he'll be back next season with Cincinnati.
Yes, I agree. And I think it'll be Cincinnati's decision, regardless of what Burrow does. I don't think Cincinnati is going to give him the get out of jail free card. This is a landscape type changing player. He's not getting moved. I don't think this has anything to do with the Bengals. Didn't sound like it to me. It just sounded like internal to me. I think he is back with the Bengals next season. We'll be back after this quick break as we get ready to wrap things up with the SportsGrid 60 on the eve of the playoffs in fantasy football. Don't go away.
Interesting to see in that Big 12. We keep talking about it. With Houston, with Iowa State, with Kansas, with BYU. They're going to be battle tested but so is the rest of that league. And man, that is going to be fun to watch.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
There are a million ways to make money on this. There really is. Right? Like I sit back, we've given you a couple of ours that we've given you. I think they're all going to win, essentially. The gold one, the Google Views one. The only one I might not win, Cam, that I gave people was, will the U.S. government announce that aliens exist in 2026?
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen. When the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback, it's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
All right, before we get to the SportsGrid 60, George has been complaining a lot here at SportsGrid, so they've given him more airtime. I guess that's how it works. I got to take advantage of that because A.J. Brown complained, just like George, and all of a sudden he's got 72 fantasy points since then. Devonta Smith, 26. So there you go, George. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, as they say. Bad dad saying from 1974. But here we are. A.J. Brown all of a sudden complained a little bit. He had his own SportsGrid 60, and he got more playing time and more catches.
Man, I'm catching a lot of strays this show. I don't know what's going on here. I got things flying at me all direction. I mean, everyone's on Jalen Hurts, right? Everyone's complaining about Jalen Hurts and he's awful. If A.J. Brown catches a couple of passes on Monday night, we're not talking about this. We're just not. I know Jalen Hurts hasn't played well, but and listen, you did have to get the ball to A.J. Brown to open up the offense, but it's funny how it's not working since, right? 1-3. This looks like the 23 Eagles all over again. I don't think they're going to collapse here. If they play the Raiders on Sunday, they're not losing to the Raiders. All right, they're not. And then they play Washington Commanders twice in the last 3 weeks. I guess they could lose one of those. Maybe, and for a Cowboy fan, maybe they lose to Buffalo in Week 17. The Cowboys the Cowboys are winning out though. That's the thing. I don't think it matters here. So I think they're getting in the playoffs, but I think they could be one and done. That'll be the problem for the Eagles there. And by the way, that won't make the Eagles fans feel any better if they're one and done.
I agree. All right. Do we have time, Sam, for this next little tidbit here? Okay. How about this? For those of you with a bye in fantasy football, check this out. This is from Yahoo. We picked it up from them. Bench everyone this week, and if something happens to one of your players mid-game, you'll be able to drop them since they're on your bench. If that player's in your starting lineup, they're locked in. But, George, I assume that if you're on the bye, that you could do whatever you want. No? Like, I've never heard this before. I guess I have to look into this. It's interesting, though.
It'll depend on your league rules. I understand where they're going with it. Maybe that's the Yahoo rules, but CBS could have different rules. ESPN could have different rules, whatever. Hell, your league could have different rules where you're not allowed to do something like that once the game starts. But I get it. If someone gets kidnapped by aliens, you can replace them during the game there, and there you go. So it's an interesting little thing there. But how would you know unless you see something? Because I make the joke, but how would you know the injury's bad? We rarely know how bad an injury is during the game. Usually we find out the next day anyway.
Yeah, you could put Harrison on IR right now or something like that before the game even starts. But, to cut a guy now, doesn't make sense. All right, let's wrap up the show. It's time now for the SportsGrid 60.
All right. I mentioned earlier in the show about the catch rule in the NFL. Something has to be done. All right. That was a touchdown to Likely last week. I don't understand. He caught the ball, had 2 feet down, but because he didn't make a third in the end zone, who cares about a football move in the end zone? Caught it, controlled it, feet down, catch, touchdown, Baltimore wins here. And then last night, it's almost the same exact play, not in the end zone, to Robinson, 2 feet down, doesn't really get the third one down. It's really close, but it's a fumble. You can't have it both ways. All right. I understand different officiating crews, maybe a different replay guy, but no one seems to, once again, the NFL, you seem to have no idea what is a catch and what isn't a catch. Once again, catch, ball, control, 2 feet down. That's it. Ball is caught then. Then we go on from there. This football move or a third foot down is just idiotic to me.
Surprised George didn't do baseball, so I'll wrap up the show with some baseball here. I know you wanted to do it, but he probably just forgot, and then I got to steal it from him here.
It's too short.
New York Mets. So, look, the Mets obviously are up against it right now. I wouldn't say that they've screwed up, but it's very obvious that a lot of their popular players, Nimmo, Diaz, Alonso, are out the door. It's time to reconfigure the team. I would guarantee that if you asked David Stearns at the beginning of the season, would you lose all three of those players? He would have said absolutely not. I'm not saying that Stearns is a bad GM at all, by the way. He's a very good GM. There's a reason why he got this job. But I guess I would ask the question, George, as you should even with Chaim Bloom, who was in Boston, are these, and look, Andrew Friedman made it work in LA, but sometimes the GMs who come from the background of not spending aren't really used to the owner who wants to spend. And it becomes a little bit of a dynamic where I wonder if this will work in New York. And by the way, Stearns is great. He could be a GM for any team, but when you're used to not doing it and doing it on the cheap, and then all of a sudden you have to extend yourself a little bit, it becomes uncomfortable. And I just wonder if that's what happened in these situations. All right, George, have a good weekend. I'll see you next week, buddy.
Very fair. Bottom line is, if you know a Met fan, check in on them.
Super Bowl MVP, multiple Super Bowl chances there, Super Bowl championship as they got it. Nick Sirianni said on the radio, no chance that Jalen Hurts is going to be benched. But by the way, Jalen Hurts didn't play the last 3 games. I think the Eagles would be 3-0 in those games, though. Just saying, Joe.
Oh, wow. How the mighty have fallen. When the Eagles fans turn on their quarterback, it's getting ugly in Philly, folks.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They're doing a new show about a Japanese interpreter.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they're doing I don't know if it's a documentary or actors are in it.
It's got
I think it's a drama.
It's a real show.
It's like a scripted show?
Yeah.
About a Japanese interpreter?
Yes.
I wonder who's getting paid for that.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
You're legendary. I'm legendary. And both of these guys love each other. Right? Cam Ward, they do. They work out. They work out. Legendary.
Go ahead.
Cam Ward.
Yep.
Shador Sanders.
Yep.
250 plus and 2 tutties each.
Amazing. That's nuts.
Why is it nuts?
Come on, that's crazy.
Why though?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
I think this is a very tough one. I haven't bet this because I still think it's that close. I would lean towards the sentiment of the voter body instead of the anointing of the new star. But at a certain point, the next 2 weeks, Drake May could be undeniable. It's really interesting market right for those two. And remember when Matthew Stafford wasn't going to play all year? Remember in August where he wasn't practicing and now he is number 2 for MVP. So go figure.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.